Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. Now from matters politics, we get into a different discussion, and that is corruption prevention in the country. What are the strategies that we are putting in place to ensure that we bring this fight to an end? You know, we bring the fight to corruption to an end, whereby we get to a place where we are a corruption-free country. What is working, what is not, what is yet to be implemented in this fight against corruption? Now, joining me on this particular discussion is Mr. Mohamud. Just a moment, sorry about that, is Mr. Mohamud Abdi, who is the Education and Public Awareness Officer at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. He is an officer at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and he is here to just let us know what measures have they put in place as the EACC to ensure that we fight this menace that is corruption. Welcome to the program, Mr. Mohamud. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivian. And first, I'd like to thank the studio and KBC for giving us the opportunity to at least articulate and discuss this matter. First, the other issue is the Commission has really launched its strategic plan, third strategic plan, for 2023 to 2027 yesterday at KICC. And it has really revamped and relooked at or rethought about its strategies. And it has really come up with learning from the lessons that we have learned for the last 5 years to come and revamp our strategies in the fight against corruption. So we are really doing well, and it is our hope and aspiration that we really implement those strategies together with the Kenyans, and it is a call to collective action, that every Kenyan should take the responsibility to make sure that at least these bad manners, I call corruption bad manners.
It is bad manners.
Yes, is really stemmed by everybody, and that is our aspiration.
All right. Before we get into the launch that happened yesterday at KICC, where exactly are we as a country in this fight?
Yeah, thank you. As a commission, I would like us to really focus on where were we, for example. That is the main issue that we need to really discuss, and where are we now? And one thing that we need to really appreciate is that at least we have high level, and that's a very big opportunity, public discourse and public awareness on this issue, that the public are very much aware, and they're really ready to really discuss, whether in the social media or even in the main media, or even anywhere, even in the streets, about the issues of governance. And that's a very good thing, though I think we have not really gone to the level we require, because we need to have a very robust public discussion or public discourse, especially on issues of public policy. On the issue of our part, I think for the last 5 years, we have really made quite a substantive improvement. If you look at, for example, the records that we have, and that's the assessment, we call it self-assessment, is that we did quite a good number of recoveries. We can talk about recovery of assets that were really looted, that we recovered worth around 28 billion Kenya shillings. We're talking about losses that we really averted through what we call proactive disruptions, close to around 39 billion shillings. We have over 40 billion worth of assets that are currently ongoing and in courts, which we have really, we want them to be recovered, or that are set for recovery. We have really preserved assets in terms of money and property worth 15 billion. We preserved for purpose of recovery. We have really done around 752 files in the last 5 years, and we have taken them to the DPP. Almost 80% of that recommended for prosecution. So at least if you look at from that statistics, we can say the last 5 years was one of a very big improvement compared to what we were before. And of course, other issues are really coming, issues of strengthening the laws, issues of having public engagement, or what you call the collective action. And if you look at, just to give you a snapshot snapshot of our strategic plan, our strategic focus is on 4 issues. One is what we call high-impact investigations. Of course, Kenyans really ask this question very much. Are you investigating the big fish, etc.? These are questions that are very common. But what we are saying is high impact in our case means they are cases of high public interest, cases involving people of high, positions of influence, and cases that are immediate and they need to be given priority. That's high impact cases. And they really involve huge sums of money, of course. Second is what we call asset recovery, asset tracing and recovery. The rationale is that people engage in corruption because of the proceeds, or what we call the favors or the benefit or the advantage they really accrue from those corrupt practices. So what we are saying is corruption should not be an avenue should not be an enterprise. In other words, you should really nip and try to really make sure that those motivations are killed by trying to really make recoveries, and that's another focus. Thirdly is about prevention and public education and public awareness. Call for the public people to strengthen systems, what you call institutional systems. And lastly is partnership and collaborations, which we are really doing. We do with all actors in governance, whether it's the media, whether it's social, what you call civil society organizations, and other institutions or stakeholders. So those are the focus. So if you ask me that question of where are we, that is where we came from. That's how our statistics or numbers are, and this is where we are going. So where we are going is really defined by that specific document we launched yesterday, which is the strategic plan for the Commission 2023 to 2027.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to go back to the fact of bringing to book individuals who hold high offices. What is the Commission doing concerning that? Because we know that this is a cry that many Kenyans, have, where they talk about, we are not seeing people in some of these top offices being brought to book, even when we know that they have corruption cases.
Okay, so, thank you. I think these are questions that has been there and we have been asked several times. And the good thing is our CEO was even there in the media saying and really articulating it and telling Kenyans that indeed we have a number of governors whom we have cases pending, for example. Are you together? And these are people who are, in our view, who are these guys we are calling high, what do you call, people of high profile. They're high profile. And that's why we said our strategic focus is high impact investigations. And high impact investigations I have really defined and said they have people of high positions, they have substantial amount of money involved, and it is of high public interest. So you see already our focus is there. And by the way, if you ask yourself, Vivian, in the last 10 years, we never had an issue where a cabinet secretary or a governor could have been, Kenyans have never thought about will be indicted or will be taken to even be invited to record a statement on issues of misuse of his office or abuse of office or corruption-related allegations. So that is a very, very important thing. And I think we are really making those steps. In fact, if you look at the statistics from when this institution was started up now, I think we are really doing a very, very tremendous job. The only issue we require now is that, of course, political goodwill, which is very important, and I've really captured that very well in my introductory statement, and of course, the backing of the Kenyans, the citizen awareness. The citizens should really know what is their role in trying to instill and enhance good governance in this country. And that is a very important thing. Thank you.
It is also alleged that the country loses millions of shillings each and every day to corruption. How true is that?
Unless or otherwise, maybe you give me specific authoritative figures. They are there. In fact, what we are talking about here is are we really saying we don't have allegations? There are allegations. So what we are saying is, who are these people who are doing this? In fact, the question that we need to ask ourselves, Vivian, is who are these people who are really doing this, who are making the public fleece the public money? And that is why our focus should be, are people who are entrusted with public positions taking their public responsibilities the way they are required? And that is the question we need to ask ourselves, is that what is the cause of this? And the cause of this, if you ask me, of course, as a person who have been in the field for some time, is the kind of person you have even put there. How do we really appoint or elect a person in office who is not taking responsibilities as required? Do we really take very good care of us, of duty of care, before we really give somebody a position? That's one thing. Do we have better systems? Do you have stronger systems of checks and balances? Do you have stronger systems where people can really go and confidently seek service without being told to, demanding for, or maybe somebody demanding for bribes? Do you have systems that really work for Kenyans? And I think that is the question that we need to really focus on the preventive side. Why must we really lose money and use efforts to really make sure we recover that money or try to punish the culprits? Of course, we cannot really continue impunity to work. But the question, Vivian, we need to ask ourselves this morning to Kenyans is that how can everybody take his or her responsibility to make sure that this country works for us, the county government work for us, public institutions work for the Kenyans, and we have well executed and well, placed systems that we can confidently say that it is really working for the aspirations of Kenyans. And I think that should be the focus. That's why we say prevention is better than cure. And still though I also really agree, that sometimes when you punish a wrongdoer, it is a deterrent. It works. It works as a prevention. But here we are saying is the element of punishing a wrong person or trying to really make sure that impunity does not pay can only work as a preventive tool if two things are there. One is the certainty of punishment, that somebody knows that whenever he is caught, whenever he does something, it is 100% sure that he will be caught. Be punished. And second is the punishment is prompt, and you will see that the case will be done or concluded in a very shortest time possible, and you'll be punished. Those are the two. And unfortunately, what is happening in our justice system, and of course that's how our justice system is crafted. It may take some time for a case to be done. Sometimes people may not even volunteer information. Sometimes you may find yourself that Kenyans don't want even to report or to really give specific informations that are very critical. So what we are saying is, can we focus on systems that are stronger so that we prevent those things happening? That we can deter and detect those things before it happens. That is why I'm quoting here and said the amount of money we recovered and the amount of losses we averted are not equal. We averted losses in the 5 years equivalent to 39 billion Kenya shillings through the proactive preventive means of disruption. But we recovered around 28 billion shillings, which is now through the rigors of court procedures and recoveries that are instituted. So I think the focus now should be, how can we prevent? How can we prevent? And if every public institution and a public officer and the Kenyans themselves take their duty to make sure that we do the right thing all the time, and we take our leaders and people in positions seek accountability or demand for accountability, then we will have something or the country working for us, and we will reduce these elements of corruption and bad manners that we are really experiencing. I
get you on that. And how do we make sure that these systems are working? How do we go about ensuring that these systems are working? Because we've seen it gets to a point where we have CSs, storming offices and institutions impromptu, unannounced, in order for things to work. We saw CS Kindiki at Nyayo House. We saw CS Murkomen, also storming the NTSA offices. How do we ensure that these systems are working? It's not that we need to get to a point where we have CSs going to particular institutions for things to get working.
Thank you. Vivian, I want to give an example just to illustrate to our viewers some points. Look at, for example, a very simple issue of before the introduction of this queuing system in banks. We used to have people just lining, that you want to get services, maybe you see it. There is highly likely that because people are really it creates some incentive for somebody to even go before you, or somebody being served who just came being served before you. Are you getting? So, or even hospitals. We now came up with what we call this machine queuing system, whereby you just get your token and then you wait, you'll be called. Yeah. You see how that's a system. So what we are saying is systems need to be deliberately put in place. So it is the people who are in position to put in place. And let me tell you, some systems are deliberately put in place so that they don't work. And that is why the Commission has a mandate to do what you call preventive mandate, to really do assessment of systems, what we call corruption risk assessments, and really give advisories to institutions. And in the last 5 years, we did that close to over 70 public institutions, including county government, around 27 of them, whereby we studied their systems, how they really operations are, the procedures, the processes, how do they dispense services to the people, how do they, and we really give advisories. And we tell them that you need to really take up these advisories and implement. Some implemented, some did not, because of the what you call the gap or the vacuum in the legal system, because we don't have those strong, legal what you call powers to really make sure that to really instill compliance and enforce compliance by way of sanctions, etc. But we are really looking to that level, whereby we're really proposing that we should be given that powers, so that at least we can enforce the strict and complete, strict adherence or maybe compliance to the advisories that are there. So the question is, systems are put in place by people who are in that position. And this includes even the people themselves. Systems start with who is handling the system. Are people in the public office first having, or did they meet the threshold given to us by Article 73, which is what we call competence, suitability, and personal integrity? That's one. Two, do you have the right systems, that is in terms of maybe technology that we are supposed to really use? Are we together? Whereby you don't need even to go to a public office. You can get those things digitally. Unfortunately, even to say some of the public institutions, you'll find they really put up a system, but it really breaks down in some times. Are we together? Yeah. You'll hear that the same task is corrupted, or maybe the system is not working. But can we really have and audit those systems? Can we have at least services being provided? Because let me tell you, corruption happens, especially on issues we talk about bribery, happens where there is element where people seek services. Yeah. And there's a very big interaction between the public service provider or service giver and the service seeker. So they call point of service. Now, how do you reduce that? It's a very simple thing. By trying to automate those clerical jobs and services, that you don't need to really go to an office to get a receipt or make a payment and get a receipt. That means you can make payment digitally by way of maybe paying it through the digital platforms, and you get the receipt immediately. So you don't need to go to that office or to queue. Are you getting? That is a system. Yeah. And it really works. That is the preventive element we are talking about. So just like the way the queuing system has really helped, that is why we are saying let's have stronger systems. The good thing with these systems, especially having stronger policies, for example. Yeah. Government is not devoid of these issues. They will have guidelines, policies, SOPs, etc. But the issue is, do you have the right people to really make sure that those policies work? Or those policies are made to work sometimes, and sometimes they're not adhered to. So we really have those very big, very mix of issues. Personal integrity of the people in office, systems that are put in place, simpler procedures. We have done research, and research has really found that corruption thrives in institutions where there's complexity of procedures. That indeed, for you to get a service like, for example, a driving license, for example, you need to go here, you need to go there, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to produce your birth certificate, you need to do ABCD, you need to... When you have those complexities, somebody, a service seeker, will ask, is there an alternative? Yeah. And that is now the alternative. In fact, where complex procedures are put in place in any institution you will find, it is an incentive for the service provider to really look for another way, of the service seeker to do another way. And it's also an incentive to the public officer, because the public officer will ask, because the procedures are very complex, it will make that person very difficult to get that service. So he will ask, is there another way?
Yeah.
And that's now the element of the bribery. So what we are saying is, let us have stronger systems. You talked about, officers going to, if that works, if that can really revamp the system, and people know that the system now is revamped, yes, but is it sustainable? No. Yes. So we need to really continue to make sure that those systems are really revamped and they work. Yeah.
I hear you on that. But what about our roads? Because we know that our roads, when it comes to corruption, that is one of the main areas. So what are you as the EACC doing to prevent, the bribes on our roads? And
yeah, thank you. And I think that is, I told you that we have very many or very various strategies we use. And one of it I talked to you about is about studying the systems and the conditions of work and the procedures that are put in place by different public institutions, and then giving advisories. Second, we also do public awareness. We do public awareness, we tell the people, and we even tell them to report. You remember just a month ago, we had some arrests we did around in Nairobi, but we are talking about that is a deterrent. This will create that element that impunity should not continue. People should not just, but what we are saying here is, can we, as a public, as a people, take up that role of make sure that, one, whenever we see a bad thing happening, we don't just look the other side. We have to really take our responsibilities and say this is bad. Report, because we have a toll-free line, Vivian. Yeah. If you look at 1551, that is 1551, and call us so that at least we can really help you. Are you together? Then the other issue is the element that the public themselves. Let me give you an example. Yeah. If, for example, we are in a public sector, public transport, and the people there say no, we will not allow this happening. Or you've seen those stickers they normally put, especially MTSA was putting Zusha, when there's overspeeding or these things. That collective responsibility works, because you will find that the officers or the enforcement officers may not be everywhere. But if the public are already there and something wrong is happening and we say no, this thing should not happen, it will stop. Another example, if you are in a public office and we are queuing and we see something very uneasy happening, if you all start voicing our concern and say no, we are not ready to do this, don't you think that public officer will change? They will. So what we are saying is that collective voice is very important. Unfortunately, Vivian, let me tell you something. Yeah. In Kenya, we have what you call the prisoner's dilemma. We are suffering in what you call a prisoner's dilemma. What's a prisoner's dilemma? For example, me and you, we are service seekers. Mohammed is ready to pay bribe. Vivian is not ready. So Vivian keeps quiet. Mohammed continues. Mohammed doesn't complain because the system is working for him through maybe the bribe he's paying, for example. Are you getting me? So it's like, and Mohammed, who is paying the bribe, knows that he ought not to have done that. Are you together? Yeah. But if you ask Mohammed, why did you do that? He will tell you, then it's not another way. I'm just doing it. But he says, is it of interest to you to stop that so that you get? He says yes. So it is of interest for both of us not to pay. But why am I doing? Because I feel like if I don't do, Vivian will do and she will get the service. Maybe we are seeking the same service. So that is the dilemma we are really facing. So what we need to do is to really unshackle ourselves from that dilemma and put ourselves that, no, this is not, we cannot really live in that situation. Let us have one voice, and that is what we call collective voice, and say no to this. In that way, I'm sure the public institutions will do their job. The leadership will do its job because they will see the public are very much concerned about it, and systems will work for us. That is that is the aspirations that we want to have as Kenyans. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There's the Transparency International 2022 Corruption Perception Index. Last year, Kenya scored 32 on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being extremely clean. So we are really below average, if I may say so. But you told me earlier that it's a plus. We've gone a bit like 4 steps ahead.
Sorry, Vivian.
Yeah.
If you look at that perception index, okay, of course 32 is completely below average. Yeah. That one, no doubt about it. And that is the perception, the general perception that is there.
Yeah.
And we're not doing well. That is right. Only that the only thing, if you look at the year previously, we were 28. So we just added some few baby steps. We made some few steps here and there. We are not really saying that we are where we want to be. In fact, we are really, if you look at several other metrics, if you look at the Afrobarometer, if you look at the corruption perception index by TI, if you look at even other governance, studies that were done, we are not doing well. And that is why we're saying, where is the problem?
Yes.
And that's why we're really fixing. One thing that you need to really know, and this is a common thing, is that you cannot fix governance issues or corruption issues if you don't have the right people or the right leadership. In fact, everything starts and falls with the leadership. Like, let me tell you, because leaders really put systems in place. In fact, their words and their thoughts are so infectious that they really, and the actions, of course, not only words, the actions also, very important. So that is why you will find it's not a mistake. And you look at, if you are a student of history, I normally say in my own personal studies that this bad manners started even the day we really crafted this nation together. That public officers who are put in public positions were not really serving the purpose for which they are. Many of them. Why? Because they're only serving their own personal gains or personal purpose. So once you derail from the purpose, then systems will not work for you. So what we are saying is we need to have those strong leadership positions, whether you're, and people in leadership are very many. Not only the elected ones, even the appointed in position. You are a CEO you are a governor, you are a CEO of an institution, you are the managing director of an institution, you are a director of a section. Take your personal responsibility to make sure that you show leadership and you don't use your office to extract personal benefit. You use your office to do what? To serve the people. That notion, if every person who is in office does that, then I'm telling you we will have at least a better country. And that perception index, I'm telling you, will going to change. So what we need is that strong leadership is very key. And in fact, very key is the political leadership. Very important. We can really go about it, but they're very important because you understand what a political leader can really do for you. And countries have really succeeded in taming these issues of bad governance through the political leadership. That's one. But what we are talking about is not only that. The people in position, the people in public office, from the CEO, from the Director General up to that person down there, who is using public office to really serve, who is using that public office to serve his personal gains. Let's try to really refocus on that and come to the purpose. Of course, the issue of investigations and punishing impunity will work, but the best and the most sustainable, in my view, is the element of prevention. That everybody should do his or her job. And that way we can have a better country.
As we all have the job to, each and every one of us has the mandate to do our job. If you can just share with us that toll-free number again so that we can have it on our screen. So the toll-free number that anyone can be able to call.
Is 1551. 1551. And that is the number that you can use.
1551 is the toll-free number. In case you have any matter that you need to report to the EACC, then that is the number that you can get to find them on. 1551.
Just to add on, EACC also have offices in the regions. So we have several offices in the regions. We have if you just go to our website, you're going to find www.eacc.go.ke. You will have offices in Nakuru, we have offices in Mombasa, we have offices in Kisii, Bungoma, Garissa.
Have offices all over.
Around, we have regional offices. We really have regional offices, so that at least, because we don't have that, of course there's an element of resources. We have not really gone to, maybe in our strategic plan we need to really devolve further and have a bigger number of staff, but we are really going there. So nonetheless, we hope to really go up to the mashinani. But the issue here is, please let us take that personal, take personal responsibility on those issues and see that this issue of bad governance and corruption is really affecting us. It is directly affecting us, and it is also indirectly affecting us. I'll give you just one example if I share with our viewers.
Okay, as we
wind up. You see, in our social cycles, every time you'll find every month you are paying bills, for example. Maybe you'll get, maybe somebody needs to go to hospital, you need to contribute.
Yeah.
But the question, and very simple issues, for example, but the question you ask is, was it not the work of a duty bearer, for example, government, to provide these simple services like water, like food, like element of healthcare? So if the systems are working, we don't need to really use a part of my income to really do what government could have done, which is to treat people in hospitals. So let us see it from that end, that when we really take personal responsibility to fight these issues, then we are really also serving ourselves, because we are really deterring, or we are really preventing other economic losses that we suffer as even individuals.
Okay. As we come to a close on this discussion, my final question to you, can we ever get to a point where Kenya is corruption-free? Quick answer.
It is an aspiration. We aspire to go there. Yeah. In fact, if you look at one of our, in our new strategic plan, we say eradicate. We are not saying minimize. We have ourselves where we eradicate. So we are aspiring to go there, because we are human beings. God has given us faculties and strength. So if we mean, we can. So the will has to come from us, and we should be focused collectively. We will go there, and that is what we think we can do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on this discussion, and I believe that this is a discussion that we should be having continuously, not a one-time discussion.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohamud. Yes. That was Mr. Mohamud Abdi, who is an Education and Public Awareness Officer at the EACC. Well, I'll be back in a moment.